Oh my goodness. Plastic everywhere. I mean, I just hauled stuff out of the trash can to put in the recycling bin because sometimes it lands in the wrong space. An empty soda bottle, a medicine, pill container, the little bitty cups and lids that come with all the takeout food that we get. Oh my gosh, we have so much stuff that we can recycle. And so many times we forget, we put it in the wrong place, or we don't know what to do with it. What the heck is happening? Recycling has gone awry. Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, play, and work. The Everyday Green Home Podcast helps you get the value of green for you, your family, and your community. Whether it's green homes, green living, or the people who make it happen, join me, Marla Esser Close, to learn how green and sustainability practices and products work for you and our world. Hey, y'all. I'm Marla, the Green Home Coach, and I'm very excited to be in virtual studio today with Tony, the Green Guy. Tony, how are you today?
You're just like making up a nickname for me, aren't you?
No, you are actually on the podcast page as Tony, the Green Guy.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that?
No, I did not. Tells you how aware
you
I
pay
am
attention.
of things. Exactly. I just thought it was a voice. I show up, I talk, I leave.
Hey, if it works, right?
Exactly.
So I have really enjoyed this climate crisis series that we've been doing. And I love how we've been able to take some topics that just need to be talked about.
I think the benefit of this is we're doing a couple things. We're showing people that you shouldn't be afraid to have a conversation about a difficult subject.
Oh, so true.
You know, here we are. You and I have said it on many of these climate crisis episodes. We don't see eye to eye on everything. Yet here we are willing to have a conversation highlighting both what we agree on and what we disagree on.
Yep.
Just if nothing else, it's demonstrating to however many listeners that it's possible to have a civil, intelligent conversation and try and come up with creative solution without yelling and screaming and name calling.
Yep.
Which seems to be all that our supposed betters know how to do.
Oh, so I follow Katharine Hayhoe, who's a climate scientist out of, I think, TCU in Texas. She's in Westernish Texas, but
okay.
Katharine is a climate scientist, and she's talks and does speaking engagements anywhere and everywhere. She's so out there and she's so well spoken. And her biggest thing that she talks about is that we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
We have to open up the conversation. And actually, she had a great Instagram post today. What is today for those of you? It's October 6th. So if you want to find Katharine Hayhoe on Instagram or Facebook, she had a really great post today about that exact topic, that we got to talk about this.
It's important because no issue, regardless of what it is, personal, professional, work issue, private issue, whatever.
Yeah.
No issue has ever been solved by ignoring it.
I don't know.
And no issue is ever solved by arguing about it.
So this whole recycling thing definitely has become more divisive because there are some people that are like, why does it matter? And there's other people that are like, it's really important to reuse the materials that we've already expended energy, time, money on, which makes a lot of sense. We're going to kind of stay away from the ocean plastic issue somewhat today because that can be a whole nother podcast in and of itself. I'm sure it'll come up a little bit, but our society has changed so much since I was a little kid. I mean, I'm old enough, folks, that I still remember deposit soda bottles.
Oh, yeah.
That we would return. And, everything came in snail mail, but we would do recycling and magazine campaign or drives, where you take your wagon and go around to everybody's house and get all their newspapers. And we had some aluminum cans then. But I remember still getting soda bottles and like 1 quart glass bottles.
Yeah, everything was still glass growing up in grade school and all that.
Nice parents let us keep the deposit money.
Yeah. Grandma and grandpa, they would basically take their week's worth of newspapers up to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And they would have like a big collection every Sunday.
Yep.
And everybody in the neighborhood did this.
Yep.
It was just part of what you did.
So what do you think changed? Because almost everything in our society is throwaway now.
I think a few things changed. I think because people started to take convenience over everything.
Yeah.
It was all about making things that were the single use or limited use. I'd use it, I throw it away, I don't even think about it, I get another one.
The easy button.
It's the easy way out.
Right.
Maybe it's because lives seem to get a little bit more complicated, whether it was technology making them more complicated. We just feel like, well, you remember how it used to be. If you wanted to get a hold of me, you called me at my house. If I wasn't home, you did not hear from me until I got.
You called back.
Right. Now, somebody needs to get a hold of me. They call me at the office. I don't answer. They call my cell. I don't pick up. They text me. If I don't respond, they might email me. It's just this constant,
right,
barrage of contact, and no one has patience. And that's another part that might tie into this. Nobody has the patience to wait for the response.
Yeah.
So think about it. We used to get in these habits of every Sunday taking newspapers somewhere to be recycled, right? Patience. It took patience. You had to plan for it. Now, if everybody's lives are so hectic, they can't even think to do it.
It has to be now.
Well, it's got to be now. Well, I don't have time to do it now, so I'm just going to throw it away.
Yep. I think that's a lot of it. I do think our lives just got a lot more complicated.
They did.
And one of the things I heard more people say during lockdown, during COVID was, wow, I'm kind of enjoying this slower pace of life. Wow, I'm kind of enjoying not having to commute every day. Wow, I'm kind of enjoying not having to run the kids to 3 different activities in one day. And of course, all I'm thinking as if you don't have to do that.
You chose to do it.
But I also think part of what happened is when I was a kid, and I'm a little older than you, the only fast food I really remember was McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
I think Taco Bell.
Little Taco Bell.
Wendy's came about when I was in high school in the later 70s. But like in the 80s, it seemed like there was an explosion of fast food.
It was about convenience.
Right. And, you had to drive through on your way to soccer practice, and it became part of a ritual almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we didn't think about the unintended consequences, another podcast that we've done, of what was happening. And in particular, what has happened that I think has had way more unintended consequences and ramifications than we ever thought it would is plastic. And when plastic first came out, I remember how excited my mom was when plastic first came out because we didn't have to worry about breaking things.
Mm-hmm.
They bounced. But we didn't think at the time that, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to all this plastic? I think a lot of us just assumed the benefits were so great that we didn't think about the other side.
And they might have been right away, that very short term, oh my God, the benefits are great.
Right.
No more broken glass, no more cut fingers, no more cut, toes. None of that if I broke something because,
right.
Hey, I dropped it. It bounced. It didn't spill. I don't have to go buy a new one.
Yeah.
So you had some of that. Now the laziness takes over.
Oh, you're going to call our listeners lazy?
No, I don't have to do a lot to support my decision to buy this now.
It's easy.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Right? And we talk about inertia a lot, whether organizational, whether, actual physics, behavioral inertia. I got used to doing things in a very easy manner.
Now we got to change your habit.
Now I got to change my habits. I got to maybe start doing more things, and change is hard.
By the way, speaking of habit, So there's a book I read called The Power of Habit. And what they say, what the author says in there is that it's much easier to change a habit than it is to start a new habit.
Now, I could see that.
So this whole concept that we talk about a lot and I preach a lot, sorry, I do preach once in a while, right? Is swaps. And swaps are a way of changing a habit. So instead of using a plastic drink bottle, I might choose to use a glass.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I choose to get an aluminum can, which is still a one-time use disposable, but has different ramifications. So I love this idea of, of habits. And I think that's where the whole idea of these swaps came from. And I'm starting to see more people talk about swaps.
Interesting.
Yeah. So plastic in particular is part of the big problem, right?
Sure.
So why?
Well, what are you going to do with it?
2 reasons, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody says, oh, we'll just recycle. Well, you can't recycle all plastic because not all plastic's the same.
So this is a big part of the problem.
You have different parts of it. And even though it's designed to be recycled, even the parts of the plastic that can be recycled, it's not always done that way. A lot of people just throw it away. They don't even think about it.
So this is a slide from my son's, his pitch deck actually for Printerior, where they're making 3D filament out of recycled plastic. But the numbers that he shared with me just were staggering. So the US produced 35.4 million metric tons of plastic in 2017.
That's a lot.
Not gone down since then. Of that, just over 11% was recycled. And then this just kills me. Over 75% of plastic that is marked to be recycled ends up in a landfill. Why is that?
Because people are used to throwing things away.
Well, there's another thing too. They call it wish cycling. People are throwing things into recycling bins, even if they're not recyclable, because they're not paying attention, they're not reading the labels, or they don't know, or they don't care. That can contaminate the whole batch.
Which means they have to throw away the entire thing.
So that's one problem. The other problem is a lot of municipalities haven't been able to keep their recycling programs going, or at least not as robustly as they did. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds of plastics, and that makes it more complicated. So we end up, I was going to find this other page while we're talking. So we end up with this crazy assortment of products that we're trying to figure out what to do with. I'm going to share this other screen. For those of you that are on video, you're getting to see the screen and see the share. For those of you that are listening, these links are in the show notes of the different websites that we're looking at. So the one we're looking at right now is actually from National Geographic. And this is kind of small for those of you on video, but this shows one of the reasons why recycling, especially plastic, which is our hardest thing to recycle in most cases, right? I mean, bulk stuff. And this is how many different kinds? 7 different kinds of plastic on this graphic. And they don't even have PLA up here. And PLA is plant plastic made from cornstarch or potato starch.
Yeah, and only 2 of those 7 are easy to recycle.
Right. So
2 are moderate.
That little triangle recycle that's on the bottom of, I can't tell if it's on the bottom of this bottle. So this one, this little medicine dealie, pill bottle, is a number 5.
Okay.
So 5 says polypropylene. Can't read. I gotta make it
moderately easy.
But a lot of places don't have anything above 1 or 2, or maybe sometimes 3. The first 3 are the most commonly recycled, I thought, but it says PVC is number 3. So never mind, that's 5%.
Well, and PVC is difficult to recycle. It's very difficult to recycle.
Really. So 1, 2, 4, and 5. Okay, well, that's good. I feel better that my number 5 pill bottles are fairly easy to recycle. But this is a big part of the problem. So you can't necessarily mix plastics to recycle them. And remember, folks, recycling means that we are changing the physical properties of it somehow. If we're reusing it, then we're taking the same thing and just using it in a different use. So refilling a plastic bottle would be reusing it, melting it down, or shredding it to make a new product would be recycling. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So you're rescuing the material to use to make something new with it. So the other side of the equation, of course, is that in order to get people to recycle and to make it worthwhile, because everybody's got to make a living from what they're doing. I mean, this isn't just a charitable effort, although it maybe needs to be. If we're not demanding enough, if we're not buying enough product with recycled content, that doesn't drive the market because it's still market driven, just like everything else.
There has to be an incentive.
Right. So when my son Trent, who we did a podcast with over the summer for Printerior Designs, when they really started this, they started talking to people in the 3D printer market, and they found that there was a huge amount of interest in being able to do more sustainable outcomes in prints, but they didn't have many sources for it. So the cart and the horse sometimes don't stay in the same place.
Well, unless they know there's a demand for it, you're not going to find organizations and companies that they're just not going to invest in potentially providing a service. They're going to look to monetize. Like you said, this isn't charity. These companies that either work in the sustainability world, the recyclable worlds, they need to be able to, be vibrant, and they need to be able to sustain the business. And typically that needs money.
Right.
So if they can't monetize it, they're not going to do it.
But there's also a big drive to continue virgin plastic production because so much of plastic is made from petroleum.
Mm-hmm.
And
need something to do with it.
Yeah, you and I found this page that really just took my breath away.
And some of the things on here are just crazy.
Yeah.
Whether it's, ink for the ballpoint pens and the ballpoint pens themselves.
Meet Printerior, a new solution to the mounting plastic waste problem. Printerior is on a mission to help solve the world's plastic problem by using 3D printers and waste plastic to create sustainable products. Their 100% recycled content 3D printer filament is created from plastic waste sources and 3D printing waste collected through the Printerior recycling program. This 100% recycled content filament is then used to make new 3D prints, completing the cycle. For businesses with smaller runs and prototypes, the Printerior Print Farm creates affordable recycled content products and prototypes on demand. Their circular model allows for quicker, more sustainable, and affordable means of production. This means turning more plastic waste into higher value products, keeping more recyclable plastic out of the landfills and giving it new life. Go to printeriordesigns.com to order and get 15% discount on your first order with coupon code GreenHomeCoach. Again, that's printeriordesigns.com, PRINTERIOR designs.com, and be sure to use your coupon code GreenHomeCoach. So for those of you that are on audio, we are looking at a page online that's in the show notes called Products Made from Petroleum. Now, most plastics are made from petroleum. Mm-hmm. And there's now like plant-based plastics, PLA, and to my knowledge, I don't know. I mean, there's some experiments with like bioplastics and things like that, but the bulk of our plastic, our virgin plastic, comes from petroleum. So when we recycle plastic, we're reusing that inherent value in that petroleum-based product, right?
Right.
So what was such a shocker is this is a huge list. I think they said on the homepage there was like 6,000 products.
Yes.
That are made from.
There's a lot.
So pick out a couple that you think just really blew you away.
Pantyhose.
Yeah.
Antihistamines.
Okay.
That was a good one. Life jackets.
How about perfumes?
Yeah, that was a different one.
Stuff you're putting on your body.
Nail polish.
Yeah, I knew that one. And that's also got toluene in it. So
hair coloring.
Toilet seats. Denture adhesive. Oh my gosh. Insect repellent.
Aspirin.
So much stuff. Shampoo.
Yeah, I just saw that.
You remember when the resin shortage crisis was a few months ago?
Still going on.
So why is there a resin shortage?
Because resins That's the stuff they'll make. Well, they make a lot of things out of it, but it's a big ingredient for plastic.
And I mean, it's in paint. Look at this. It's in ammonia. It's in hair curlers, bandages.
I mean, safety glasses,
Shaving cream.
sunglasses. Yeah.
We use petroleum for so many things that we don't understand. And with
Movie film.
oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. So the film they shoot movies on, the old cellulose film and all that. Oil, petroleum.
And lotion. I mean, so much crazy stuff. And so we're in this really kind of odd time where it won't let me stop sharing. We may have.
Are you frozen? Oh, there you go.
Headquarters to control. Mission control.
We have a problem.
Number one, I know so many people do not know where their products come from. Just like we don't know where our food comes from.
Sure.
We don't know where our products come from. So number one, folks, pay attention. Just learn about it. Understand it a little bit more. And
well, it used to be easy though. Knowing where your food came from used to be very simple. Local farmers, you knew exactly where it was. But supply chains have just become so complex, especially with companies becoming more globalized.
And plastic is a great way to protect things. Mm-hmm. So it's become very widely used in packaging. I mean, we even had they would shrink wrap stuff when they're moving things. And there's a lot of great uses for plastic. Please don't take me wrong. Scott would probably not be alive if it wasn't for plastic, because some of the plastic medical supplies saved his life. And I'm very grateful to that.
One item on that list was heart valves.
Well, he didn't have a heart valve, but yeah.
I know that, but
you meant on the
heart valves.
Yeah.
So think about that. If you're having any kind of heart surgery, if they're putting in an artificial valve, it's plastic. It's made from petroleum.
Yeah. There's a lot of good uses for plastic. I think my way of thinking is, and I talk about this all the time, if we just cut the waste out of so many of our processes and so many of the ways that we behave, we would have much more to go around. We'd be able to use it in its highest priority uses. So single-use plastic is definitely high on the list for potentially being wasteful, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, and there's two things that I think are the big contenders, and it's more water bottles. This one happens to be a soda bottle, but drink bottles. And I prefer aluminum because I think aluminum's more recyclable. Yeah, look at you with your Mountain Dew. I just got my peach flavored water. But to me, aluminum tastes better than plastic.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I'm not a big fan of how plastic tastes. I really like how things taste in glass, which is why I opt for a glass when I'm home. But the other thing that I think is a big contender is these plastic grocery bags. And, it says on it, please return to a participating store for recycling, store drop off plastic bag. And by the way, folks, you can recycle a lot of your plastic bags in that store drop off, like dry cleaning bags or bread bags, things like that. There's an awful lot of these floating around the world.
Well, especially now, especially over the last year because of the pandemic.
Right.
And a lot of, I know you always brought your own bags.
I do. I have like 5 different sets.
There was a lot of places that prohibited all that while the pandemic was going on just because they didn't know.
Right.
So what do you do at that point?
Right. And like a paper bag is a different option. We're trying to preserve our forest too. So it's like, I still think the best option it is. The nice thing about paper though, is it decomposes. So if you leave it outside long enough, eventually it's going to return. It is natural matter. It's made of cellulose, which is from trees. So anytime you can quit using a one-time use anything that's disposable, that's a great option. It was funny because when I was walking around the house to pick up some things, we don't use as much plastic as we used to. And I've really started looking for items that are not packaged in 3 layers of plastic. And we don't buy as much stuff as we used to. But we don't have kids at home either right now. So that helps.
Right.
But I think the other problem, and I was going to bring up this last slide. The other problem is this whole idea of labeling, this wish cycling, right? And if you remember, I think we can see it best on this one. It would be easier to see when I have the screen big again, but there's a little recycling label. Let's see if I can get it close enough. It's kind of reflecting, so it's not very good. But that little label is the same one that's on the screen right now. It's the How to Recycle label. And this is an article or a blog from the Shelton Group. And this statistic blew me away, Tony. First off, only 22% of Americans say they always look for an item's recycling label before discarding the item. So 1 in 5 people. Mm-hmm. And of those, 66% did notice the new label, but then we got to make it helpful and we got to know what to do with it.
Well, and think about that. So many people are used to single stream recycling.
Right.
They just automatically assume it's ready to go. So they might not even look for it.
If it has the 3 triangles, then I can throw it in the bin.
Right.
Which is not the case. In a lot of municipalities, I mean, I've been in some municipalities that don't recycle glass. And that's kind of one that we've all pretty much assumed that everybody does glass, and they don't.
Yeah, because we've been recycling it since the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
That you and I know of. And most likely even before that, because the deposits on glass bottles, milk had always been delivered in glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love milk and glass. Oh my gosh, I had a dairy delivered.
Overweiss.
Yep, that's right. You're in St. Louis. So I did think this was interesting, though, as far as that label goes. So we do know how to recycle. What we do have is that the brands, the whole topic of this one was, or the summary was that the brands should be promoting their label, making it easier to see on packaging, and the companies need to make more parts of their packaging actually recyclable.
Well, and that's a great argument because part of the brand itself is the story, right? It's the why.
And that's
why is it important to buy from this company?
Big component to how we buy stuff, why we buy stuff.
Yeah. And I think if the brand itself really starts messaging that.
Yeah.
And hey, look, ours is easy to recycle. This is what you do. You know, it becomes part of the advertising.
Yeah, we're starting to see a move to repair things the same way.
And, you know, it was always about seeing somebody happy using something, right? Well, maybe eventually that branding, that advertising is about it going in recycling bin versus a landfill.
Full circle.
Full circle. You got it. I mean, I think we're not too far off from seeing more of that on our advertising than just somebody using the product.
There's been some really interesting pilot projects starting with like bulk refills and things that could be delivered to your house. And a couple of big name personal and household product providers have gotten involved in this pilot that's with Terracycle. It's going to be really interesting to see what comes out of it. And Terracycle, for you all that haven't heard of it, is actually pretty big organization that focuses on different ways to recycle stuff and helps get recycling programs going. You can do a recycle box for hard to recycle things that you could have at your office or at your childcare or your school. And when it's filled up, you pay to send it back. That's part of the box's cost. But now you've recycled a whole bunch of stuff. So,
and you know, okay, that what you said, that's an important thing. You pay to have it recycled.
It's part of the product.
There's a lot of things. You know, we're in the electronics industry.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just go somewhere and drop it off anymore.
But Tony, we're a first-time cost country.
We are.
Everything we think about is first-time cost only, and we can't think that way anymore if we're going to have a better future. Period.
We cannot. And that's why a lot of electronics end up in landfills.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to pay to recycle it. They just can't wrap their head around that.
Yeah.
What do you mean I got to pay to get rid of something? No, I'm just going to throw it in the trash. That's what happened.
Well, look at tires.
Yeah.
When you get a new set of tires, your recycling charge is figured into your tires.
You see it right there. Same thing with an oil change.
I don't know why we don't do that on everything.
You have an oil change. Mm-hmm. It's right there.
You pay to recycle the oil. Yeah.
Well, and you know, the reason why we can't do it with everything is because when I go to buy a new TV, I'm not bringing the old one in. When I'm getting new tires, somebody's removing them.
You are bringing the old ones in. That's true.
And they're disposing it.
No, there actually are some good refrigerator programs, but so there's lots of possibilities, lots of opportunity, a fast growing number of solutions. I see new companies coming up that are less packaging or no packaging, solutions like Frontier that my son started up. I'm seeing a bunch of these. Almost every day I see a new one. So that's very encouraging. So I'd like to wrap this up and leave our listeners and viewers with just a handful of ideas for our favorite tips to recycle better and wiser.
Okay.
obviously the best choice is not to use something disposable if you can help it. And, I go by the 80-20 rule, right? If you can do something that's a habit you want to encourage 80% of the time, then that's a win. So if you can use stuff that's reusable 80% of the time, that's a win.
So for me, the first thing I would do is ask yourself, do I actually need this?
Ooh, good point.
So if I'm grocery shopping and somebody says, do you need this in a bag? And I don't, I say no.
Yeah.
Even if it's something I'm just purchasing, like, oh, no, I don't need a bag for that. I'm more than capable of carrying it out. So just give me the receipt, the item, and off I go.
Yep, good idea.
So that would be number one. Ask, do I need it? And that will get rid of a few different things. It'll allow you to have fewer items that you need to recycle, and it will also cut down on what you're actually using.
Yeah, I've actually had baggers that have put my stuff in a plastic bag before I've had a chance to say no. And I'll say, that's okay, I don't need it. I'm saving a plastic tree.
Well, and you know what? I usually preface it.
Kind of jokey, so everybody kind of smiles.
I preface it that way. When I say, no, I don't need that, there's enough plastic in landfills. And usually the cashier will smile along. Yeah, you're right. They get it. They understand why. It's easy to understand.
So my next tip, so let's do one more each and then we'll wrap this puppy up. If you have to choose disposables, choose the one that's going to give you a second benefit. It can be reused, or it can be easily recycled. So for me, I would choose like the aluminum drink can over the plastic if I had to have a disposable beverage. Living in St. Louis as long as I did, we had a huge recycler in Anheuser-Busch at the time, and they recycled more aluminum than they actually made. So that was encouraging. So that would be my next tip. What's yours?
Okay. For me, I would say use items that you can develop a habit for disposing them.
Okay.
Whether it's, like you said, it's something that can be easily recycled. So get in that habit of, hey, I'm going to do this every time. Whether it's I'm going to put my empty soda cans in this bin, and then every Tuesday, I'm going to take them out to this bin on the outside. I'm going to wheel it down to the curb because my recycling truck comes every Wednesday, and you get into that repeatable habit.
Yeah.
And it just becomes something you do.
There you go. Well, I said one more each, but I'm going to leave us with this. Hey, read the labels, folks. And, if it's not something that's recyclable, even if it makes you sad, put it in the right place. So we want to conserve as much of the recycling as we can and get the most value out of it and continue to get good value out of all the materials and the resources that are out there. So recycling is part of that. And hopefully we'll get better at it soon.
We can't get any worse.
Yeah, what can you say? Well, hey, folks, we hope you've enjoyed this Climate Crisis Recycling Gone Awry with me and Tony the Green Guy, and we'll see you next time. That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Ready to get started? Get more information, how-tos, and resources in my private Facebook group, Love Your Everyday Green Home. See you there. And remember that living a little better and a little greener is easier than you think.